there, this is John Highman from Commercial Real Estate Online. Welcome to the program. This is the video show where I like to share tips, tools and ideas in commercial real estate around the world, sales, leasing and property management, so welcome. In this video, you'll always get ideas that you can apply to your brokerage activities. And so for today, I want to go down into the topic of tenancy mix in a retail shopping centre. So grab your notes, grab your coffee, come back and listen to the program. And here is the video. I'll take you into how you will analyse a tenancy mix in a shopping centre. So this particular matrix I've used many times in different ways in workshops around the world over the last 15, 20 odd years. In saying that, today I just want to drill down into the tenancy mix logic and how you can work with that. So when you're a leasing expert for a shopping centre, there are things to look at regularly, and that will be the tenancy mix. And that's what this matrix is all about. The tenancy mix analysis process is right here. And I'll take you into these separate subsets, and you should make your notes as I take you into that. And of course, from your notes, you can add to those items and apply them to your shopping centre where you are leasing and or managing the shopping centre. So let's go through it alphabetically, and let's start with the anchor tenants. So with the anchor tenants, you've got to know a number of different things relative to their occupancy. So these are the items. The expiry dates of the anchor tenants. Go through the leases, of course, to understand the particular lease covenants. And here they are here. The lessee covenants and the lessor covenants. The lessee, of course, is the tenant. The lessor is the landlord. And from that, look at the permitted use provisions of the lease so you understand how the anchor tenants can sell and occupy the space. Sell from and occupy the space that they are in. And then, of course, look at the rental structure in case there is some sort of turnover rent provision. Look at the risk assessment activities that an anchor tenant could apply or bring to your property. Maybe the tenancy is large, maybe they do special things within the property that could challenge risk assessment. Then there are sales figures, of course, to get in a regular way from your anchor tenants, so you know just how they are tracking, and that will be a factor to negotiate at the beginning of the lease. Then, of course, there'll be size issues relating to the anchor tenants and whether the tenancy is too small or too large and how they use it. And then, of course, you'll set up tenancy meetings with the anchor tenants regularly so. Now, from that topic, you go straight into the business plan. Now, there should be a business plan for the asset. And within that business plan, you'll put everything each year relating to the asset and how it performs over time. So let's start with the easy ones. You've got the expenditure for the property. That's running the property, of course, repairs and maintenance, that sort of thing. Also rates and taxes. Then you've got the income stream, the various types of income and rental that you are collecting. Now, those two issues there will be supported by lease documentation because each lease will refer to the income stream and the expenditure issues. And then you'll have a look at the property regards maintenance. It could be a new property, it could be an old property, but there will be maintenance issues there to consider and look into. So let's go over here and look at the rental budgets. This suggests that you should have rental budgets within the business plan so that as you negotiate a new lease with a sitting tenant or a new lease with a new tenant, you know what rentals you are going to stick to. And as part of that, the incentives will be, let's say, budgeted and estimated for the leases to be negotiated through the financial year. Then there are risk management issues to understand in the property. If it's an old property, then there are things to look at within that. And you'll have a tenant retention plan where you will be trying to keep your A-class and B-class tenants. The C tenants, doesn't really matter. You'll probably drop them off whenever you can change them over. And of course, there are vacancy expectations in the property over the year, and the business plan will allow you to develop some strategies for the vacancy. Let's go further. Let's look at the clusters of tenants. So when you look at the clusters of tenants around the shopping centre, there are special areas to look at. So in order, obviously the doors and entrances, then the food court and any food tenants, the fashion type tenants, lifestyle tenants, that could be sportswear, that sort of thing. Look at the brands, the franchise chains, that sort of thing. See how they are performing within the shopping centre and whether they need to be relocated into a different cluster. Then there are the service tenants such as banks, and then you have the entertainment precinct, which could be computer games, it could be kids zones, it could be theatres, that sort of thing. Then you'll have the anchor tenants, the specialty tenants, and the lease details. So the lease details really relates to all of the tenants in the mix across the cluster. And in any retail shopping centre, you'll have a number of clusters, always at the doorways, of course, and then the food court, the fashion tenants, and the different precincts around the property. If it's a large property, you'll have common areas to think about and how the clusters work within the common areas. Going further, some tenants will need to contract occupancy, so that's something to think about each year, and you'll talk to tenants about that from time to time. Other tenants will need to expand occupancy, and again, that is if they need more space. Where would you move them? How would you handle that? How would you give them more space? When would you do that? When does their lease expire? Just things to think about. Then you go down into the merchandise groups. Now, I've just split them up into the broad general merchandise groups here. The brands, the destination type tenants, fashion, financial, food, health and beauty, lifestyle, services. You can add to those groups, of course, and you can add other merchandise groups, perhaps that I'm not covering here for you. So then you have a selection of pop-up tenants that just occur throughout the property from time to time. They could be in the malls, they could be in the vacancies that you have, and you'll have certain terms and conditions that relate to pop-up tenant occupation. Short-term leases, of course, maybe 1 month or by the month, or maybe quarterly, that sort of thing. So from that, you can go down into subsets of selection, relocation. Some tenants need to be moved. So what is the timing of that? And then, of course, you look at the clusters to make that happen as well. Now, I put a special topic in here relating to sales by tenant and merchandise group. So you should be collecting the turnover figures from the tenants. But the only way you can achieve that is by negotiating that fact at the beginning of lease occupancy as part of the lease terms and conditions. Now, if you can get the turnover figures from all of your tenants, or the majority of them, then you can analyse how trade is actually going across the merchandise groups within the centre. And you will know the merchandise groups that are performing and those that are not. And you'll also know the tenants that are struggling. So that is very helpful. Let's go to shop standards. Now, shop standards, you should have a shop standard policy relating to tenants that occupy your shopping centre. So these topics here I've put specifically for your use, but you should be adding to this as well. So the approval processes for anything that occurs in the tenancy: cleaning, fire safety devices, that's extinguishers, sprinklers, that sort of thing. The lease standards, the standard lease document, what is it? How does it work? Also, if the tenant has any licensed areas, and that would be some outside dining area or something similar. You should also have some rules applying to plans and drawings of the tenancy, so that the drawings are given to you, they are approved by the landlord when due consideration is given to them by the building engineer. And once they are approved, they're kept on file. Now, the plans and drawings would be lodged with the current building approvals commission or office in your location, so that the tenancy is in fully compliant conditions to the way in which they should trade within the property. So then you go across here to shop standards of renovation. If renovation should occur, maybe it's as basic as painting. Maybe it's more than that. Also, risk management solutions. Maybe some tenants will bring to you some problems relating to customers, customer types, maybe some risk type issues, such as if it's an entertainment precinct, maybe there are things within that zone, that tenancy zone, which could injure people. So that's risk management. How does that work? How does the lease protect the landlord from any problems? Then, of course, there will be security issues. The shop front will be policed so that it is in a good presentation at all times, and the shop front is in compliance with the building design, the mall design, the tenancy design. So shop fronts should never be any different than that which is approved for the shopping centre. And then, of course, there are signage policies. So lots of things to think about there for shop standards. And then we go to the specialty tenants. Now, the specialty tenants are the smaller tenants within the shopping centre, and you can have a number of different categories there to make sure that you've got the tenants under control. And if you have a large shopping centre, you'll have a lot of specialty tenants. That is the way it is. So you will develop rules and controls within the specialty tenants. That will be the landlord covenants, the lease documentation, some awareness of lease expiry and how that happens, rent comparisons, risk assessment, sales figures, shopping centre presentation, also the shop presentation and standards, and the tenant covenants. Now, within that, the specialty area as well, there should be standards relating to the property handover or the handover at the end of the lease. Something that's very important when you do get to the end of lease occupancy. The tenancy has to be given back to you as the centre manager or the leasing manager in a particular condition. So think about those things. Now let's look at the next topic here, which will relate to the vacancies. I did say to you earlier that you should prioritise your tenants, A, B and C. The A tenants you would want to keep, absolutely. The B tenants you would like to keep. The C tenants, it doesn't really matter. So you work with your tenants within priorities. Then, of course, you look at the clusters and you understand where the vacancy threats could be within the clusters. Because too many vacancies within a cluster or around a doorway can destroy the flow of people and the customers to the property. So going further, who are the tenants that you're going to target to fill the vacancies? That is actually a factor of the business plan for the asset each year, setting aside a list of targeted tenants or target tenant types that you would want to bring into the centre over time. And then lastly, there'll be a tenant retention plan to tie it all together. So those topics there work well when you come to look at your vacancies and keep them under control. And you will have vacancies. That says you'll have a vacancy review, and that should be a forward-looking document, which is sort of 18 months out, so you can see where the leases are to expire in the next 18 months, and then you take steps to ensure that the vacancy isn't too long, and you do achieve a vacancy with a new tenant, a resolve of a vacancy with a new tenant in a productive way. So that is the tenancy mix list. I hope you've made your list from that. So in saying all of that, take these topics, add to them as required with your shopping centre and with your leasing strategy. And all of a sudden you'll have a tenant mix review document, which is a very powerful review tool for leasing and also centre managers. So that's the strategy. Let's go further here. And I'll also show you an article at the website, and I'll pull it up here. This particular article at the website will help you as well. A plan to solve shop vacancies in shopping centres. So go to the website and download that particular article and print it. So the website, of course, is commercial-realestate-training.com. So that is the video for today. And I hope you got some ideas there relating to how you manage the tenancy mix. Because if you look after shopping centres, you will have to have a full and detailed strategy regards retail shop leasing and retail tenant selection. And it's a big part of what you do and your services. So in closing, this is John Hyman. I thank you for watching the video. And of course, you can download that article that I highlighted for you. And visit that website, which is commercial-realestate-training.com. Catch you soon.